Thank you all for being here. So this press conference is going to be two parts. The first part is announcing this coalition with an opportunity for community members and organizations to share a few words. And part B of this press conference is basically talking about Justice for Palestine Weekend of Action. So we'll start with part A. As we all know, the Queensland government passed new laws that criminalise and restrict our freedoms of expression. These laws are stupid. They're not protecting Australians. So they're used to criminalise Australians and have already been used to arrest and intimidate Australian citizens. We stand firm in our opposition of the undermining of the democratic principles of this country. And we're here to announce a coalition of organizations, human rights organizations, faith-based groups, community organizations, to say, not our laws. These are not our laws. These are Israel laws on Australian soil. They are not to protect Australians. They are already criminalizing Australians, and we stand firm in upholding our freedoms and civil liberties. This coalition calls on the Crisafulli government to immediately repeal the sections in the Act that restricts freedom of expression, to drop all charges against Australians who have been arrested under these laws, and to commit to no further arrests under this legislation. 4 Australians have already been charged under this legislation. This is the absurdity of these laws, that Australian citizens are risking jail time for demanding that this government upholds its obligation under international law and under the Genocide Convention. We will not be silenced. We will challenge these laws, and we call on every single person and every organization, union, human rights organizations, and faith-based groups to join this coalition to say to the government, not our law. And now I'm going to open it up to community members to share a few words. We'll start with Omar Ashur from the Palestinian community, Palestine Inc.
Good afternoon. My name is Omar Ashur. I am Palestinian and Australian. I'm an organizer in JFP and a committee member of Palestine Inc. Today, I'm speaking to you representing Palestine Inc., the Palestinian community in Queensland organization. We as Palestinians have grown used to silencing attempts by Israel. It's ingrained in Israeli laws and very demonstrable in their actions, especially over the past 2.5 years, where their intentions towards Palestinians have become crystal clear during the Gaza genocide, even for people who are not politically engaged. It is now the experience of people who oppose this ongoing genocide and Israeli occupation right here in Queensland, that the Israeli gag has infiltrated their laws and their democracy through Israeli friends, namely in this case, the LNP. The banned slogan between the two bodies of water is an expression and a call for freedom. It is linked to the history of occupation and displacement of Palestinians and ethnic cleansing in the Nakba in 1948, where 1 million Palestinians were displaced into refugee camps. It is not a hateful call, and banning it is quite irrelevant. As Palestinians, Israel was unsuccessful in silencing us for the past 80 years. Israel has also failed in making us hateful and resentful. We see our humanity like we see the humanity of everyone else. We believe in our rights to exist like we believe for the right of everyone else to exist. We from Palestine Inc., the Palestinian community in Queensland, support JFP's coalition challenge these laws, and we are certain that these unjust laws will eventually be scrapped. But more importantly, that these laws will not silence our voices, which is clearly the real intent behind these laws. Free Palestine.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Binil Muhiddin. I'm a representative of the Queensland Muslims Incorporated. The global pro-Palestinian movement is a collective of Muslims, Christians, Jews, people of faith and no faith, diverse ethnicities, activists, legal experts, academics, artists, journalists, and everyday citizens. We stand firmly against the anti-Jewish hatred, anti-Muslim hatred, against discrimination of our black brothers and sisters, and all forms of racism. We are here to send a clear message to the Crucifoli government: your law is not our law. The Premier has used the grief of an entire nation to score political points. And in its fabrication, these repressive laws are nothing but tyrannical. They are not about protecting any community. The manner in which these despotic legislations were rushed through the parliament without due process or time for consultation, despite opposition from several faith and community groups, the manner in which these laws are designed to suppress dissent and criminalize political speech, the scapegoating of minorities, the authoritarian control, the intimidation, the militarism, the banning of two specific phrases, a combination of 9 English words, is an intellectual blackout. It is thought policing. And the manner in which they are now being used to target ordinary Australians who are calling for peace, freedom, liberation, and speaking against the genocide of Palestinians, a live-stream genocide where the entire world witnessed the daily murder of thousands and thousands and thousands of children for over 900 days, is by far the injustice, the greatest injustice in recent human history. These draconian laws are an indication of the destruction, the decadence, the moral decline of our governing institutions. Let's be clear and honest. What we are witnessing is the weaving of foreign fascist structures into the fabric of our society here. The target is the pro-Palestinian voices today. The target is our collective voice tomorrow. And the irony, the irony to label it as fighting anti-Semitism, when in fact it suppresses the voices of one ethnic group, the Palestinians, who are in fact Semitic. It is repulsive, an insult to our democracy, a stain on our heritage. And we pose the question to Crucifoli government, all of this for what? To appease a foreign power, a foreign lobby? And today every Australian must ask the question, who is it that our elected representatives actually serve? There is nothing socially cohesive about these laws. On the contrary, it transcends our communities into further division through discrimination of certain minorities. It humiliates this nation and degrades human personality. I'll end with a quote from the great Martin Luther King, who says, "Any law that uplifts human personality is just. Any law that degrades human personality is unjust." And he adds, one has not only a legal but moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. These laws are an attack on our freedom. We will not back down. Peace and free Palestine. Thank you.
Well, Well, here we go again. David Crucifoli's new laws would make Joe Bjelke-Petersen blush. Even he never tried to criminalise phrases that he didn't like. But just like Queenslanders beat that hillbilly dictator and won for years a system where our civil rights are respected and the right to protest is upheld, we're going to do that again. I'm Jody Hall, I'm from Trans Justice Project, and as trans people, we know the importance of solidarity because nobody is free until we are all free. We believe that everyone deserves freedom, justice, and equality, no matter where they come from, how old they are, what language they speak, what faith they follow, who they love, or how they experience their gender. These laws from the Queensland government are an appalling attack and an attempt to crush support for Palestinian human rights and opposition to Israel's genocide in Palestine. And they are an authoritarian attack on the basic principle of freedom of expression. Trans Justice Project will continue to stand in solidarity with Justice for Palestine, the Palestinian community, and everyone who believes in human rights for all. We will continue to fight these laws, and we will continue to fight the Queensland government's agenda of hate and division with love, inclusion, and a steadfast commitment to liberation for all.
One down a bit more. Good afternoon. My name is Edward Carroll. I wear two hats when I'm involved in politics. I am the leader of a nascent political party in Queensland called Queensland Progressives. I am also a lay member of the Jewish community and of the two Jewish groups based in southeast Queensland, namely Doykeit, that is Doykeit, which is a grassroots Jewish organising group based here in Megangin, Brisbane, and also Brisbane Jewish Voices for Hope. I stand here today as a long-time speaker in support of Palestine. I've started speaking in November 2023, initially as one of the first Jewish voices, and then as more people from the Jewish community became confident and able to stand up and step out in support for Palestine, we have built an entire community together here in Brisbane and across Australia. And we stand united together as anti-Zionist Jews and as non-Zionist Jews against these laws. These laws that the David Chrysler-Fully LNP government have put forward do absolutely nothing to address actual anti-Semitism and are only used to crush dissent against the state of Israel and in support of Palestine. The fact that they have only put forward two phrases that are pro-Palestinian phrases and are not anti-Semitic in any nature at all shows exactly what their goal is, and we stand completely against it and will continue to do so. We are very concerned with the rise of legitimate anti-Semitism across Australia. The fact that the pro-Israel Zionist Jewish and Zionist Christian lobbies have been entirely silent on Nazis, neo-Nazis, and white nationalists parading around Australia and giving legitimately anti-Semitic speeches and slogans should be of great concern to us all. And that is being entirely ignored by the Chrysler-Fully government. If they want to be serious about addressing anti-Semitism, that is the first and only point of call they need to be making. If they are talking about anything else, they are not serious and they are not legitimate. And we will help to strike these laws down. Thank you.
Folks, I'm Michael Berkman and I'm the Greens MP in the Queensland Parliament. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to stand here today with all of these members of the coalition that is pushing back to say these are not our laws. I've had plenty to say already about exactly why these are bad laws, why they're unjust, why they're counterproductive. The truth is that these are laws from a wildly authoritarian government that has no concern whatsoever. It has no intention and no means of combating anti-Semitism, as it says. It's simply cracking down on solidarity and support for the Palestinian people who are still being subjected to a genocide. There is no ceasefire in Gaza. Not only are they trying to silence dissent, but the objective of this Queensland government is to distract from the atrocities, from the horror that is still unfolding in Gaza and now even further around the Middle East. The Greens have always stood firmly opposed to these laws. We will continue to fight back and push back until the laws are repealed. But my question today is for Queensland Labor. They didn't vote for the legislation ultimately, but they claimed to do so on process grounds. So I want to know, will Queensland Labor stand up? Will they take the moral position? Will they oppose these laws, and will they stand with me and with the Coalition to repeal them at the very first opportunity? Again, grateful for everyone's participation. Look forward to seeing more and more people join the Coalition.
I'm Michael Cope. I'm the President of the Queensland Council for Civil Liberties. The Council was founded almost 60 years ago to defend the right to peaceful protest in this state, and we continue to do so to this day. And we are proud to continue to support this opposition to these laws. Criminalising in the context of peaceful demonstrations, these sort of chants with the prospect of up to 2 years jail is one of the most serious threats to freedom of speech in this state in the last 50 years. These demonstrations have got to be one of the most significant political protest movements since the Vietnam War. They have a right to continue to advocate for their cause. The expressions in question are said to be offensive, but the principle that you can criminalise speech on the basis that that is offensive is fundamentally wrong. This is because too many people are too easily offended. These laws should be challenged, and we hope that that challenge will be successful. I note that a few weeks ago, the police minister made the appalling comment that these sort of expressions led to the massacre at Bondi. That is just a disgraceful comment because it undermines the moral responsibility of the bigots who perpetrated that massacre. We call upon the government to repeal these laws and to restore the rights of protesters in this state. Thank you.
So as Palestinians and Muslims, and a person who represents both the Palestinian and Muslim Votes Matter community, we're here to express our concern and the fear that these laws have impacted on otherwise law-abiding Muslims. Our community is concerned that these laws disproportionately attack the Muslim community whose families are currently undergoing a genocide, not just in Gaza, but in all of occupied Palestine, the West Bank, southern Lebanon. They've experienced genocide in Iraq, and now what is happening in Iran. The communities are being targeted for speech when they are the ones whose lives and blood are being spilt in the Middle East. And so we are here to oppose these laws as the Muslim community.
Thanks, everyone. I've got a statement by the Queensland Council of Unions by Jackie King, who is the General Secretary, that I'm going to read out. Jackie couldn't make it today. The QCU is opposed to the restrictions on free speech and peaceful protesting, which now form part of the LNP's regressive laws introduced this year. We continue to stand in solidarity with the Palestinian peoples and against the genocide occurring in Gaza. The union movement is fundamentally a movement of peace, and we call for an end to the current international conflict in the Middle East. And I also wish to pass the comments by Amnesty International that they are willing to take questions because they are in support of this coalition, but they couldn't make a presence today. I'm going to answer any questions before we move into Justice for Palestine's Week of Action. We've got Dr. Saya here. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. So, good afternoon. My name is Dr. Saya Aziz. I'm standing here today as a doctor, as someone who bears witness to a truth that the Queensland Government is trying to legislate out of existence. I'm here to oppose these new laws that criminalise the simple fundamental call for freedom. From the beep to the beep, Palestine will be free. This phrase has been outlawed, but for me, its meaning is not political. It is humanity. I speak to you as someone who volunteered in Gaza in September 2025 for 4 weeks. I was there during the height of the genocide, in the brutal period just before the so-called ceasefire was announced. We all know it is not a ceasefire. It is an ongoing genocide disguised as a so-called ceasefire. The bombing has never ceased, but slowed, and the blockade of basic equipment and medicines continue with increased draconian ferocity that kills children every day. Many of us have watched this horror unfold as a live-streamed atrocity on our phones. But for those of us, like me, who saw it with my own eyes, the reality is etched and seared into my soul. I want to share with you 3 images, 3 children, 3 moments that I carry with me every single day. The first is Tame. Tame is a 5-year-old boy. His neck was blown open by a weapon, demonic savagery, a quadcopter drone. This is a remote-controlled machine piloted by an Israeli soldier, equipped with high-definition camera and munition designed to be dropped on human beings. An Israeli soldier looked at a screen, saw a child, and chose to end his life. For all we know, that soldier could be a dual citizen, an Australian Israeli, walking amongst us today. The second is Mohammed. Mohammed was 10 years old. He was the son of a nurse at Al-Shifa Hospital, one of my colleagues. His family was destroyed by another one of their weapons, a decommissioned tank loaded with 6 to 7 tons of explosives, driven into a neighborhood and detonated remotely. It is designed to annihilate entire city blocks and everyone inside them. The reverberations of an earthquake shakes the walls of the hospital and shatters your eardrums. Mohammed was the only survivor. His father, a nurse, a healer, was killed. His mother, his brother, his sister, all gone in an instant. When he was brought to us, he was still alive, but barely. He had extensive burns across his body. His face was burned, his eyes were burned. As he lay there, whimpering, mourning the death of his father, he could no longer see. His flesh was melting away in front of our eyes. Flies were swarming him. He was a 10-year-old boy, blinded, burned, and alone in the dark. The third image is one I will never forget. It is the image of a resuscitation bay. A father lay there, dismembered among his own severed limbs. He was still alive, and he was asking for his children. And in the doorway, those same children stood frozen and silent, watching their father, unable to move, unable to process the horror. They were alive, but they were witnessing something no child should ever have to witness. Tame, Mohammed, that father and his children. These are not statistics. These are not political symbols. These are human beings. All we are asking for is simple, that this is not to be done to children anywhere. Not in our name, not in the name of any Australian. We are calling for freedom and equality for every human being living in the land. A land geographically demarcated from the Jordan River in the east to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. We are calling for a land where Muslims, Christians, and Jews, all of whom have lived there for millennia, coexist. No apartheid, no injustice, freedom of movement for all, equal rights for all, equal access to water, food, and agricultural land, equal access to health and education, no checkpoints for Palestinians whilst Israelis drive highways, no more this absurd system of control. And this brings me back to the absurdity of this very law. This is Olympic level word gymnastics, designed for one purpose: to appease the Israeli lobby in Australia. Why? Because their feelings are hurt and they have been found out and that we have pointed out the truth? They are committing a genocide. This is their final solution to clear the land of its indigenous inhabitants. But the veil has lifted. We see through the hypocrisy and the double standards. In the eyes of the Queensland government, it seems not all lives are equal. Brown and black or even white children in Palestine don't seem to count. Their murder is somehow less important than the feelings of those who support the people murdering them. The message this law sends is that we should protect the feelings of the perpetrators rather than stand with the victims. And while we condemn the soldiers who pull the trigger, we must also look at the weapons they use. We were being bombed not just by quadcopters and drone tanks, but by F-35 jets. Australian-made parts go into these jets. We supply them. Penny Wong and this government tell us these are non-lethal parts. So let me ask her directly from the place where I stood. What part of that father's body was a non-lethal part? Which of his limbs, severed and lying next to him as his child watched from the doorway, was cut off by a non-lethal part? What part of Tame's neck was the non-lethal part? What part of Mohammed's melting flesh was a non-lethal part? Do not tell the Australian people that there is such a thing as a non-lethal part in a machine designed for slaughter. Do not tell me that our country's hands are clean when we supply the weapons that did this. Well, I'm a doctor who went to Gaza. I witnessed the death of tens of children every single day. I worked in hospitals as they were being bombed by the Israeli military. Those hospitals where the spirit of humanity and God prevails are more sacred than any holy land, and yet we were bombed. Our lives and the lives of our patients were threatened. I hope no one in Australia ever has to see what I saw. That kind of trauma scars you for life. It wasn't just the scale of the obliteration of bodies and childhoods, it was the systematic dismantling of life itself. So, Mr. Crisafulli, you can invent laws to try and silence us. You can listen to your lobby masters and follow their instructions. But we have seen the truth, and that truth is the source of our courage. Your bully tactics will not work when the truth is bursting at the seams. We have never had this many people in Queensland and Australia awake and aware of what Israel's actions stand for. It stands for this: Tame, Mohammed, and the Father. This is what it stands for. So I ask the people of Queensland, is this what you want us to stand for? The brutal savagery of a 21st century live stream genocide? Are we prepared to accept their narrative? Are we to believe that Tame was the terrorist? That Mohammed and his melting flesh was the terrorist? That a father and his severed limbs asking for his children was the terrorist? And to the Christians here, I ask you, if Jesus saw Tame, a 5-year-old boy, drowning in his own blood because Israel blocked the basic equipment needed to save his life, who would he stand with? If he saw Mohammed, a 10-year-old boy, blinded and burned, his flesh melting away, who would he stand with? Would he be okay with us standing by, watching someone's baby die? Is that the teachings of Jesus? Thank you.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Indeed, thank you, Dr. Saya, and thank you, everyone. And indeed, not our laws, not with our weapons, and not with our laws. I think the Crisafulli government is about to see that by attempting to restrict our civil liberties, they united all of us. And they're about to see and be confronted by the reality of Queenslanders and how far we're willing to go to protect our freedoms and civil liberties. We will not be silenced while Palestinians are being killed and massacred and starved to death. I'm going to take questions now before we move on to part 2, unless you want to keep all questions until the end. Right. So we're going to announce Justice for Palestine's Week of Action. This is just for our supporters to have an understanding of what we're going to announce now. So today, more Palestinians in Gaza are being starved to death due to Israel's blocking of food and aid trucks. Villages in the West Bank are being burnt, and Palestinians all across the Palestinian territories are being faced by the brutality of the Israeli government and illegal settlers. They're being killed, they're being maimed, and they're being abducted from their homes in the middle of the night. Justice for Palestine will use every avenue to advocate for Palestinian rights and to stand against the complicity of this government as we continue to supply weapons parts that are used in the active genocide, not only against Palestinians, but also against Lebanese people and against Iranians. And all of us are here standing firm against all of atrocities and all violations of human rights and international law. The Israeli government has been exposed for the genocidal regime that is. And the Israeli lobby pushed very hard for these laws to be passed. So we're going to remind Crisafulli on the weekend of action, starting from the 18th of April, who he really answers to. And I would like to remind him that on the 24th of August last year, over 50,000 Queenslanders stood together against the atrocities of the Israeli government, the government that he's trying to protect by enacting these laws. All chanted the prohibited chants now because they all believe in freedom. All believe in freedom. And we stand against apartheid and against the complicity of this country. We're going to have an upskilling day on the 28th of this month. During this upskilling day, we're going to provide information for people, the thousands of people who took to the streets, took to their socials to oppose these repressive laws. And we're going to support them to make informed decisions as to how they want to oppose these laws. We're going to be the voice of people who want to stand against these laws. We're going to create opportunity for everyone, individuals and organizations who reject these laws and reject the foreign interference in our domestic politics, not our laws. The week prior to the weekend of action is going to be comprised of several actions by individuals who are willing to challenge these laws as they see fit. And on the 19th of April, we're going to have a big rally, and we invite all unions, faith-based groups, human rights organizations, and everyone to come and support us. We ask you to also contribute to the crowdfunding to be used in our legal challenge. We will not be silenced. We will oppose these laws because they're stupid laws and they're not protecting Queenslanders. They're already putting Queenslanders at risk to protect a government accused of genocide. Thank you.
Just listening to your speeches there, I just want to ask if you can see that these laws have effectively worked because no one in the movement is using those phrases anymore by the sounds of it.
4 Australian citizens have already been arrested. They've been charged under these laws. And I would say that these laws are not just to ban slogans. Our movement isn't about slogans. Our movement is to advocate for the human rights of all. And of course, the Palestinians are at the heart of, or the target of these laws. And if they think, the Crisafulli government thinks that by banning some slogans, they're going to slow our movement, I think they're about to see what these laws are going to do.
Who's the fourth? I know 3. Who was the fourth? The fourth person who's been arrested and charged?
This morning, as I understand.
Aha, I see.
French Darling. You said that last year at the big rally, 50,000 people said things you're not allowed to say. Is the intention that you're going to get a similar sized rally and then say it again in April? Is that the thinking?
Look, our role is to make sure that Queenslanders understand the consequences of their actions. And that's the purpose of our upskilling day on the 28th of March. We're not going to tell Queenslanders what to do. We're going to give them all the support they need and all the information to make those decisions. We want a similar size rally, and we want people to feel supported and empowered to do what they need to do to oppose these laws. We want to make sure that people understand the consequences of using these phrases.
So you said that there'd be individuals would challenge it by. Oh, hang on. Individuals would challenge the laws on an individual basis in that week leading up. What is that going to mean? Is that going to mean expressing the prescribed phrase in that week? That's what's going to happen then?
Again, that's up to the individuals to make that call. And we're going to support them all the way.
Is this civil disobedience? Is that what we're talking about here?
Again, up to the individuals and the groups to do what they see fit to oppose these laws.
Is the goal, though, ultimately to test the laws and see how much they would be applied to a larger group of people versus one or two people at a rally?
Look, eventually these laws are going to be challenged in the court. And there's nothing the Queensland government is going to do to stop us from heading into that direction.
Is Justice for Palestine prepared to fund the legal cases of those people who in the future will potentially get arrested if they are saying them at rallies?
This is why we're launching the crowdfunding. This is basically for legal support. And we call on every individual in this city and in this state, in the country at large, to contribute to this crowdfunding. We know we'll use it.
Do you worry that by sort of telegraphing, I guess, what your action's going to be, that there could be a stronger police presence or a stronger clampdown from the government?
That's up to the government and the police to do what they need to do. For us, the people, we're the people who will hold the line and remind the government who they answer to.
There were an awful lot of police here last Wednesday, at PSRT and others. There weren't that many police last year, I recall, at the big rally. Are you concerned that there might be just more police this time? Do you think that they might over-police the rally coming up?
We're used to over-policing. This is not new to the movement. And this movement is comprised of passionate people who are not only concerned about the violations of international law and human rights principles, but also in the complicity of this government. Even if there's going to be over-policing and over-representation of police, we're going to do what we need to do. We're not worried.
Sorry. Was that arrest that happened this morning? Was that here for this event? Is that where it happened?
No, it was prior to this event. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, fellas. Standard criminal code will apply.